Hello, welcome back to the Arturia Synthi tutorial series. Today we're dealing with a couple of modules. We're going to have a look at the filter oscillator and the ring modulator. Filter first. Don't be fooled by the lack of knobs. This filter sounds fantastic. Let's get an oscillator up and running. We'll use a sawtooth because it's nice and rich. So we're going to plug an oscillator, the oscillator 1 sawtooth wave into the filter. And I'm going to come straight out of the filter into the output. Get my levels right. So here we have a simple sawtooth wave. Frequency tells you that we've got a low pass filter. That's letting all the signal through. As I begin to pull back on the dial, we throw more and more high frequencies away. This is really straightforward stuff. And as we simplify the wave and throw more and more of those harmonics away, before we end up at silence, we've got pretty much a sine wave or something very close to. Now, where this filter really starts coming into its own is with the response knob. This is a multifunctional beast. The modelling behind the scenes on the filter, I'll just shut it up for a moment, uses slightly different technology from normal. Typically, filter systems use transistors to attenuate or control frequencies. In the filter oscillator, it's modelled on diodes instead. It's a different design and was emulated by Roland in their TB303. If I get this sound going again, and bring the response up to about 7. And we get a really excellent filter effect. You see this peak in the curve, that's resonance. So also called Q. Resonance is the kind of the physics term, the maths term. Basically, it accentuates the frequencies around the cutoff point. Now, the manual describes it more of a bandpass filter when the response is around 5 to 7. I'm not entirely sure I completely agree that that's a bandpass filter, because it's not attenuating any of the low frequencies, which a bandpass would be. But we do get some pretty intense resonance effects, and it does sound absolutely magnificent. It's really easy to make, it says OSC, it's really easy to make this filter self-oscillate. There it goes. So what's happening there is that the internal circuitry of the filter system is creating a feedback loop, and it's generating its own sine tone. Now, because of this, we can actually use the filter module as an audio source. Remember in video 1 I talked about sources having this crossover process. These two modules here are treated as both sources and treatments, because fundamentally the filter is supposed to be a treatment. It's supposed to affect an audio signal, but in self-oscillation mode it generates its own. If I decouple the keyboard from the oscillator and instead connect it to filter frequency instead, I'll just get the sound going again. We can stand it for a short period. If I increase the frequency knob, there are pitches there. And if I press the keyboard, we've got some limited control over the pitch of that tone. Now, it's not an oscillator in the sense that the other three, the three primary oscillators are. It's very unruly and very difficult to control, and wanders away from its pitch very, very quickly. So if I get something remotely resembling, there we go, we've got a C. So I press the C on the keyboard and we're hearing a C. Don't really get identifiable tones. Oh, there was a B flat there by pressing a B. So that's why the filter bank is considered to be an audio output. How much of an audio output, I'll leave it to you to decide. But if we go back to something a little bit more closely resembling a traditional setup, keyboard triggering an oscillator, going into an envelope, out of the envelope, into the filter, out of the filter, off to the output, and now got a controllable keyboard. And we can see that we've also got audio level on the filter oscillator unit itself. Second module I want to talk about today is the ring modulator. Now, I've recently done a completely separate video on amplitude modulation and ring modulation. So if you're interested in that as a wider discussion, then head over and have a look at it. So the deal with ring modulation is that it takes two waves and it multiplies them together. That's why we've got two inputs. You've got to provide two waves to a ring modulator. In fact, if I send it only one and map that ring modulator to the output, we're going to get no sound at all. Let's have a listen to the two sounds that I'm going to combine together, and then we'll see what effect they have in the spectrum analyzer. So I'm going to use oscillator 1's sine wave, and that's currently cycling at 80 Hertz. And I'm going to use oscillator 3's triangle wave, and that's currently at 50 Hertz. Send those two into the ring modulator. So it's now going to combine those two waves together and output a single tone, and we get access to that from the ring mod output, and this is what it sounds like. Generally speaking, ring modulation effects are quieter than the source waves that they come from. Can get a bit more of it. Now have a look at the spectrum analyzer below. We had waves at 80 and 50 Hertz. So if we find 80 Hertz on the graph, it's here. There's no longer a wave at 80 Hertz, and 50 is over here, and again there's no peak at 50 Hertz. What we do have is a sum and difference effect, which means that those two waves are being combined additively and subtractively. 80 plus 50 is 130, that's this, and 80 minus 50 is 30, and it's right at the end of the graph, but it's actually this one down here. Let's see if I can find it. There we go, there it is. So that's the ring modulation's sum and difference effect. It throws away the original frequencies and applies what these things call sidebands. The two harmonics added together, and the two harmonics are subtracted from each other. And because you have no fundamental frequencies anymore, you have none of the original harmonics left, it's quite atonal and usually bell-like, metallic, brash, atonal. These are effects, these are terms that are used to describe the ring modulation, but for all its atonal quality, it's really harmonically rich, so they're really useful waves to do other stuff with. So don't write it off as an effect just because it might sound kind of fairly unpleasant. You might be wanting to imitate some kind of metallic or bell sound, in which case ring modulation should be one of the first places that you look. Metallic sounds sound metallic just as a matter of interest because they're missing fundamental harmonics. That's why it's so instantly recognizable as that effect. Hope you found the video useful. If you did, please consider subscribing. Hit notifications, you'll be sure not to miss the next episode. Hope to see you then. Thanks a lot.